Hello, Lena.
Hi, John. Can you
Yes,
hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Anybody hear me?
I can hear you,
John, you
Danny.
hear me? Oh, you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I see Lena and John are here.
Yep. Looks like we're a little early, so people should be coming on board.
Jim Griffin. Who's that?
I don't know. He might be for another case.
From what?
He might be for another case.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And just yeah, everybody just sort of leave their microphones mute, and then the zoning examiner will sort of keep going that way. So that's the best way to do it.
Okay, John. That was John, or was that you? Who was that?
That was me, John Beal.
Oh, okay, I'll
Yeah.
mute
So
it.
yeah, everybody, yeah, he'll call on people.
Okay.
Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll get started. Good evening. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. We have one case on the docket for tonight. It's case number C9-2202, Tucson Mountain Park PAD. This is a reopened hearing. I issued my preliminary report on May 24, 2022. The applicant and the applicant's representative submitted additional materials, and I issued a decision reopening the hearing so that they could present additional materials in support of their application. We're going to proceed in the following way. First, I'll ask Ms. Perrell from Planning and Development Services Department to update the written approvals and protests. Then I'll ask to hear from Mr. Guido or Mr. Eftimov on their application for the reopened hearing to submit any additional information they'd like to submit tonight. Then I will ask to hear from anyone in the audience who supports the requested rezoning, and then I'll hear from anyone in the audience who is opposed to the proposed rezoning. So we'll start with Ms. Perrell. Ms. Perrell, would you please give us an update?
Yes. At the previous hearing for this case on May 17th, there were 7 protests and 1 approval. As of this hearing, there have been 6 new protests and 15 new approvals. 5 of the 6 protests are from individuals who had previously submitted comments, and the 15 approvals are signatures collected by the applicant that were submitted with the request for reconsideration. So in total for the whole case, we now have a total of 8 protests and 16 approvals.
Thank you, Ms. Perrell. And I should preface this by saying, Mr. Eftimov and Mr. Guido and other members in the audience, I have reviewed all of the protests, all the approvals. I reviewed all the materials submitted to me by both Mr. Eftimov and by Mr. Guido. I don't say that to cut short anything you'd like to share with me tonight, but just to let you know. And prior to the May 17, 2022 hearing, I made a site visit. I again went out to the site today before the hearing tonight. So Mr. Guido or Mr. Eftimov, whoever wants to lead off, please go ahead.
You have to unmute yourself, Danny. You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, here I am. Okay, thank you, Mr. Arino, for this opportunity. First of all, I'd like to apologize for coming on too strong with my response with you. I was just so emotional. I get so emotional into this thing. And...
Yeah, Mr. Eftimov, there's no need to apologize.
Okay, well, anyway, I have to. That's just my nature. Anyway, I'd like to, before I get into everything, I'd just like to comment on what Ms. Perrell said. And she mentioned about all the people that were for. I actually submitted information after the fact, and in actuality, there's 30 lot owners that approve it. There's 4 lot owners that are against it, and 3 that don't live there. That I know they had a right to an opinion, but it's actually only 4. One of the previous that were against said he's bowing out and he's not going to debate or be against it. So anyway, that's factual. I can submit that to you to show you, but I thought I did, and I thought it would be clear in the information that was submitted. Anyway, on to the next thing. I first off would like to say, I just walked. I wish you would have told me you were here at the property, because I was going to say, God, I wish you would come so I could walk you through the property and show you for myself. But if you look, then I'll show you, and I'm sure you'll understand. I walked the property and looked myself for the first time thoroughly at how many hookups there were. I assumed when I first bought the property that there was 34, because that's what they had said. I actually found 38 hookups on the property. So apparently they're trying to get away with 4 more, but neither here nor there. There's 32 visible pads, and to really get around this, it's he said, she said. I just want to be exact. People keep saying there's 20. There's not. I just walked it today and counted. There's 32 visible pads. 3 of them are wood, One is in the back on the southwest corner, and two are on the south property, which it's all covered with debris, but that's what was built for them. But in actuality, the 32 minus the 3, there's 29 actual pads. Did you see that, Mr. Iurino, when you were walking the property?
Please go ahead. This is not a give and take, back and forth kind of thing, so just go right ahead.
Okay. Anyway, then there was a, just to clarify things, there was a comment that I bought the property in 2017. And again, it's all he said, she said. It's not true. The property was sold in 2013 to the guy I bought it from in 2015, but he held paper. And I finally had to buy him out because he was paying me, I was paying him at a certain percent, and I closed on it in 2017. But I've been living there and owned the property since 2015, just to make that clear there. I chose the cypress, which everybody was, there was comments about, because it grows straight up. And I used them over on a property I did on Miracle Mile, and they're 14 feet within 5 years. And like I said, they went straight up, and I was doing it for not only cosmetic, but for the buffer inside the fence all the way around. It was also mentioned about there was a drainage problem. I don't know where this is coming from, but we showed it in our presentation in the PAD. It's not in a flood zone. And there's never been a problem with drainage where water comes off our property and goes on to the neighboring properties. It just doesn't happen. That drainage ditch is deep. It goes into the drainage ditch and flows to the east. It was brought to the fact that I don't live in the property, and I lived in Florida. I've never lived in Florida. I've been there since I was in high school. I'm from Chicago, and I've been here in Tucson since 1974. I went to the U of A, just to clarify that. Of all the comments that the neighbors had made that were in protest, the 4, one of them had backed out. And like I said, the other 3 were outsiders who made their comments. Everything they said was about, hang on, let me see if I wrote it down. It was about privacy, density, the trees, and the streets, and the size of the lots, right? And the width of the streets and parking. We addressed all that in our rebuttal to you. We addressed everything, showing that we've got policies. I reduced it to 29 spaces to make the spaces a minimum of 21 feet wide instead of some that were 18 up to 24 feet wide. The average space, the smallest space in cactus country is 21 by 50. And that's for the biggest RVs. And they seem to be concerned about the size of the RVs. It's relative. We can't go more than 36 if it's a 38-foot space. That's all I've got, the biggest space. And the smaller spaces, I can't make them the length of the space. They got to be 2 foot less. So if it's a 24-foot space it can only be a 22-foot RV. It's all relative, but we addressed all that. And then they were concerned about, we said we were putting up an 8-foot fence, and out of all the readings that I looked over, everyone said, we don't want it, but we would prefer a block wall. Everybody said if I put a block wall, that's what they were really concerned with. And I don't know the reason. A block wall versus a steel and wood at 8 foot, it's solid. But I'm open for suggestions from you, Mr. Iurino, but it's like, I don't understand, why they can't see that that's going to stop anyone from coming onto their property, people coming off our property, the privacy issue, the litter in the drainage ditch, which, by the way, and I said this before, and one of the neighbors across the way, I met her son, and he admitted to me, he said, the tweakers are the problem. They come up that alley from the east and they hang out in there, they throw their shit. That's really the problem. So maybe in the past it was from the residents that lived there, but we've addressed it. It's not gonna happen. So anyway, we addressed it with the ditch, the trees, the width and the spaces that it allows with the 24-foot width streets. they can park on one side of the street, just like any 24-foot street, and still be able to come and go on the other 12-foot, which is a right of way for a single drive. Let's see, there was an issue about the traffic on Ajo, and that there's really not, when they said, oh, future growth and et cetera, somebody had mentioned, I'm dumbfounded because we live here, and the only time there's traffic is between 8 and 9 a.m. and between 4 and 5 p.m. The rest of the day, there's absolutely nothing. I mean, I don't know what time you came, but I'm sure you could see that yourself. Again, I said, we addressed all the concerns. And then when they were talking about, everybody's concern was, oh, I'm removing all the vegetation. If you were here, you saw, there's a lot of native plants on the property, which are staying. There's a lot of overgrowth that's going to be trimmed, but the cactus are staying, the small mesquites, there's some other trees. I'm only removing 2 bushes and 1 live tree. That's like in the middle of it's in the middle of the property. It just grew in a spot over the past years, and it shouldn't be there. It's like taking up a space. So it's 1 live tree, the other one's dead, and all the other trees on the south side of my property, they're not on my property. I'm going to trim them because they hang onto the property, but they're not trees I'm touching. They're like in the drainage ditch. I'm not cutting them down. I'm only taking down the 1 dead tree and 1 live tree, and bushes and all the scrubs you see that have grown on the property there. But then all the native stuff, especially along the front and within there, it's all staying. And then it was brought up, oh, I should not put these cypress. And like I said, because I'm putting 140, that was to make it a nice wall. If they only want every 4 foot instead of 2 foot, I can do that. And I'm putting a drip system in there so they'll grow like I did on Miracle Mount. If you could suggest something else, I was trying to make it enclosed and make it create the ambiance and create the hedge all around. They're saying don't take down trees. I'm putting them up in the back, which is going to really give coverage, and shade. No other RV parks plant trees within next to their spaces. It's just that doesn't happen. It happens on perimeters and around buildings or whatever, but not where the spaces are. They just don't do it. Now, as far as the pads were concerned, I said there's actually 29 visible concrete pads. And people said, oh, there's only 20. I'm removing all the pads because newer developments don't even put in pads. They're all stone. Why? Because when an RV comes in, you don't know which side the entrance door is on his RV. So if they want to back in, and they say, well, I want my RV to be on this side. When you have a concrete pad, it presets and determines how you got to park. If I eliminate them and it's just all real nice with a picnic bench that they can move around, they can go on either side. And that's the whole reason for it. It'll be all, like I said, landscaped with the red chip granite that I'm putting in there, and the black asphalt throughout. And then the nice fence, which is a rusted steel look with a womanized wood that will be stained to match the rusted look of the rest of the fence. Let's see. Oh, I mentioned about, how many where the streets of parking I mentioned. And there was someone that's mentioned, they said, oh, I doubt if people are going to walk across the street. And I should have said this before, but it slipped my mind. I'm purchasing a 6-seater golf cart. So people that say, hey, we'd like to go across the street, boom, we just shuttle them over there during the days when it's open, and they can call us and bring it back on their cell phone. If not, they drive their own car. We've thought about all that, the consideration for the guests at the property. And let's see. I've showed that we have the policies, the rules, the quiet times. We mentioned all the things that were all their concerns. We addressed every one of them. And they keep bringing up the same thing. So it's like, that's what I was going to say. I wish you could meet me out there just to look for yourself and see for yourself exactly what I'm talking about. But since you were there, I'm sure you can see now. I'm an 8-foot fence plus two of the three people, they already have 6-foot black walls around their property, but they're still adamant about, oh, we want to see a black wall. You know, we don't want it, but if you put a black wall, well, listen, I'd be willing to put a black wall in the back there. I don't think it's going to look good. I'm all about ambience and, you know, it's like you're building a custom home. I've been doing this all my life. I'm not going to put something that the people, it's curb appeal. They're going to come in there and go, why is that ugly black wall there when you got the nice fence the rest of the way? That's my reasoning for it. It truly is. Policies. Oh, as far as I mentioned about the tweakers, and that's really the problem there, that it's not going to come from our property. Even the police. I had a talk with a policeman weeks ago. Someone had come on our property again. And when he called me back, he told me, he says, yeah, listen, I got a call from one of the other neighbors. They were doing the same thing. Guy came up to the doors, described like you, and wanted to sell them something. And, you know, and I told him, I said, man, I wanted to kill the guy, get him off the property. And I just told him, I made the joke and I told him, other residential properties I have, when they come all dressed up and trying to fool me, they go, oh, we'd like to run your property. And I go, oh, really? Let me see your teeth. I said, the cop started laughing because it's true. It's a bad habit. It's a bad drug use, and it's created a lot of problems in our city. Not just here, but even on the north side. I know it's all over town. I heard they just robbed some places up in the Catalinas. I know they don't live there, but they come from the south side and they're going all over robbing places. It's a shame. It really is, but they'll never have an issue with that from us. Never. I won't allow it. It's like, and like I said, I live there. If I'm not there, the manager's going to be there, period. I think that's about it. As far as I could just finalize by saying, I'm telling you the truth about the spaces if you didn't see them. There's 29 pads, 32 altogether. 3 of them are wood, and there's 29 concrete pads. I even see this drawing. I marked them on here and numbered them where they all are. Now, if you look at this aerial view, like for example, if you look right here, you see this one? It doesn't show a pad, but I marked one. That's because this photo is so old from when the other owner owned it this is from Google Earth. There was bushes there, but there's a concrete pad and electrical service and water right there. Anyway, that's all I have to say. And I appreciate it if you approve this to the board to allow me to do this. I've reduced the density, and I'm just open for suggestions. If there's anything you could think of, Mr. Ryan, that what am I missing that we didn't already resolve with the people? I just don't get it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eftima. Mr. Guido, did you want to be heard also?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
I guess I feel that this project does follow a good portion of Plan Tucson Chapter 3 by attracting visitors. It's a good transitional project from commercial to residential. It's somewhat unique in that it's a commercial / residential being an RV park. It promotes a good business climate and promotes tourism. I guess some of the other points that I'd like to hit is it's a good infill project. It utilizes the existing infrastructure. There's quite a few people that are for the project, and the few that are against it are mostly concerned with security and density. And I think the fence addresses the security, and the density we're obviously flexible with. So there'll be on-site management all the time to help supervise that. And it's a unique gathering place, caters to smaller RVs, not the larger RVs, which is kind of unique in itself. And I think that's all that I really have. I think Danny's covered most of it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and if I may say one more thing. And the gentleman to my west, Ernie, who's got the 3 lots and wants to do commercial. I know that's not something to throw, oh, you got to give it to me because he is, and I don't feel entitled. It's just like I brought up when I had met him last year and he told me this, I thought, wow, great transition. Residential, got the multiple, and then you got commercial. I mean, he's adamant about coming forward and put a big old tire with the rest of it to the corner, a little strip center. It's like, I'm not going to go against it. I think it's a great idea because it's at a stoplight. How many houses you build at a stoplight? You don't. You know, anyway, that's all I have to say. I appreciate it.
Yep. Anyone else in the audience would like to be heard? Ms. Baker, did you want to be heard? I had an email from PDSD saying that you did. If you do, please go ahead, unmute your device and go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't find the darn button.
No problem. If you would start just with your name, even though I know it because it's on my screen, but there's a transcript prepared of these hearings. So please start with your name and your address and then go right ahead.
Beryl Baker, Santa Cruz Southwest Facilitator, Mission Road.
Thank you.
The majority of people who signed his petition on Ajo will not be directly affected by this rezoning pad.
That's true.
As for the rezoning of the properties to the west, that has not occurred yet. So it would appear to be irrelevant to how this particular property is used. The size of spaces continues to show this property is too small for the number of spaces and the size of units he is planning for this location. According to the owner's remarks last time, he plans to remove the current space pads, which I heard him say he is planning to do, and allow haphazard parking for units that potentially are too large for even the current spaces. As that we understand it, he does not live on the property and does not plan to live on the property. Now, he did mention, he said that he lives on the property, but he also says he had a manager, but there's only one house. So that's confusing.
I said when I leave.
Mr. Eftemoff, you have to let people talk when they talk.
I'm sorry.
They let you talk when you talk, so please stop.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Baker.
Thus, all of this density of RVs would not affect him. Although we personally would like to see the RV park reinstated as it has been historically here, but only with using the 20 spaces visible from the air on the flat area above the drop-off. However, due to the size of the property, the road size, the spaces, it appears that the more appropriate limitations of size of RVs and campers should be 25 feet or less. Few people will cross busy High Ajo, and he's attempted to address that, which is approximately 5 lanes, including the turn lane, and it is very busy between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. I'm not usually out there in the morning, so I'm not sure what the timing is there. To go to Kennedy Park for the open space opportunities. Italian cypress are not native, can be water hogs, and are not really good shade trees. The mature native trees one sees from the aerial photo are obviously good shade trees, which help cut down the heat from the increasingly hot weather. They also have the advantage of already being established, providing an amenity of an on-site cooling park. As this area is lower than the rest of the level part of the property with the 20 spaces, it would be more difficult to access by RVs, and if used as spaces, might require grading and or removal of the mature trees. Spaces here would also be a disturbance on the south side to the owners to the south. We did not note any indication how or if he would be doing water harvesting. The area on the south already serves as a water harvesting area, and we suggest that he figure out other ways to increase water harvesting opportunities on the property, especially to also supplement the trees he plans to plant. He closes his arguments by just expressing his disdain for the current long-term neighbors and their lifestyles. He goes on to claim that his project will be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood while ignoring the impact it will have on neighbors who have been there for many years. We must respect his right to use his property, and although we don't have a personal problem with him having 20 RV spaces on the level part of his property as counted from the air, the density and size of units allowed he is requesting is inappropriate for the size of this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Ms. Abriza, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to go ahead, start with your name and address?
Hi, thank you. My name is Abriza Zagir. I live at 2425 South Forest Avenue. I'm the chair of the West Side Development, or West Side Neighborhood Association. Okay, and I'm gonna, okay, so Mr. Edamoff,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to address, so I found out, I got an address from Florida because that's the mailing address your property taxes are sent to from the Pima County Assessor's Office.
Really?
Yeah, so that's-
bank pays them, my bank pays them. I don't know.
Well, this is, so they're sending it to a place in Florida. So I'm apologizing if I got that wrong. I'm only going about, well, the research I found from.
No problem.
Okay. Second thing, and I do appreciate you addressing the issues of making the roads wider. They were clearly not wide enough for that purpose for two vehicles to pass by. But I do have, I still have a question that maybe someone from PDSD, either Ms. Porrell or Mr. Beal can answer, or is the engineering of, I'm really concerned, I don't think you can actually allow your property to drain off into a certain, it might have been done in the past, but there are certain physical barriers that you have to put up that you cannot let the water go off your property. So using the back area as a drainage area is, I don't think is very appropriate. And I'm going to agree with Beryl. I mean, in reality, we want to see you have a good business there, but also there's a reality of the number of spaces and the concentration there. And I'm going to have to agree with the cypress is not really a good idea in this. Granted, you're putting it on drip. Anything can be put on drip. I just don't think that's an appropriate tree to be planting in this drought situation we're in. There was something else I was going to mention, and you read my comments because it is posted at the zoning examiner's office. I still believe that, I know you reduced your spaces down to 29. I still believe that is still too dense. And I'm not opposed to the type of wall you're planning to put up. I think it'll look nice, to be honest. I think it will look. I may suggest that if you're, I may suggest that I do believe you should underground. I know your utilities will go underground to the individual spaces, but undergrounding your utility at this point, since you're digging everything up, you will never have a problem of trees encroaching on your OHEs because you will not have OHEs. So anything you do in the future will benefit your property.
What's OAG?
Overhead electrical lines.
Oh, okay. Okay, I did.
Yeah, I learned a lot of this lingo just being part of the community. And I just want to, I think, I don't think this pad is ready to be approved. I think more information as far as engineering specs and stuff, which you don't want to invest in unless you can actually get this approved. But I think the pad number still needs to be reduced. And you're going to fill in the pool, I guess.
I'm not even gonna build it. There was not one there. That was actually a space. That's a space that has a concrete pad right next to it, and then next to that is a sidewalk that leads to the stairs, and there's electrical water hookup. So I was taking away a space and just putting it somewhere else and putting the slab with a pool.
Okay, fine. Anyway, I'm still opposed to this particular pad development as designed and discussed. I do believe that there are going to be some drainage problems with the properties to the south. And I'm worried about, yes, it's a bank. Banks can get eroded. And when flooding goes through there, and there has to be something to address that particular issue. And removing any of the plants along there is actually going to degrade the slope there. So anyway, those are my comments, and I want to thank you all for letting me voice my opinion.
Of course, thank you very much. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Hearing no one, Mr. Guido, did you have any concluding remarks?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Please.
As far as the drainage goes, we're not changing the impervious cover on the site at all. So the drainage will be in the future, in the proposed condition, exactly as it is in the existing condition. And I think that's about all I had to comment on from what was said.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to thank it. Mr. Aftermoff, did you want to have a last word?
Yeah, just to follow up on what he said about the drainage. It's not in the flood zone, and as long as in the ordinance is in the code, as long as your water doesn't drain onto a neighbor's property, it doesn't. It goes properly right into the drainage ditch. And then I'm going to show you this. I have 11 signatures from people that live on Probasco, and I sent this in with my follow-up that wasn't on the original. That apparently, when the lady just said there was nobody from Probasco, I have 11 homeowners that signed it that live on Probasco. And then the trees, again, we're not taking anything down. It's not on my property. I'm just improving it.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for participating, and I'm closing the hearing on case C92202. I hope everyone has a lovely evening, and let's hope there's some rain tonight.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Appreciate it.